What's up, everybody? I had previously made a video about this, but somehow it got deleted, which makes me feel really stupid. Or it didn't record, I should say. It reminds me when KMG did his first show and apparently recorded, like 3 hours of his show and it didn't get broadcast. The Boomer Tech. But I like this magazine cover. There was another article called something like Luke Ford, is he good for the Jews? Which reminds me of that famous cover with Rush Limbaugh, where it says, "Is Rush Limbaugh good for America?" With him puffing a stogie with a bunch of smoke, which he then mocked and said, "Is the mainstream media good for America?" Cleverly. But yeah, so it's just interesting. I had previously made some like low quality. Well, let's get real. All my videos are pretty low quality, but it's more about my train of thought than the quality of the videos. But I had made some previous videos on this subject, but I kind of wanted to reiterate my thoughts, maybe in a more cohesive way. But I think I'm basically going to title this "How Luke Ford and His Show Changed My Life." I think it's accurate. Which sounds like you're saying a lot, right? Isn't that such a cliche? Oh my God, this changed my life. Such and such changed my life. But I don't think it's hyperbole. I'm not, like trying to blow smoke up the guy's ass. But his show was really quite something and a spectacle, a unique phenomena. It still is, but especially, back in the day, 2-3 years ago, when a lot of people, quantitatively, more people were on his show having these feelings. But the show and his ideas, but also, just like more of the show that he put on actually did change my life because it exposed me to ideas and thoughts that had their own meaning to me, unique to myself, although other people might have that same takeaway. It was suggested to me through the YouTube algorithm. I'm thinking it was, I want to say like around Thanksgiving 2018. So, why would you click on, I don't even know why I clicked on the show. It was, an unremarkable picture frame, probably just of like Luke's face. But maybe I thought like, okay, this is a talk show. I don't know what the hell it is. It looks pretty ordinary, but what are they talking about? I don't think it had like a clickbaity title, but maybe. So just totally random YouTube logarithm. Coming into the show, just make sure I'm still recording. Coming into the show, it's kind of a circus, right? You don't know who's who, like who's Luke, what was this guy doing. Kyle was heavily on his show, but also others. So I didn't understand the whole dynamics, like I actually thought Kyle Rowland might have been a white nationalist. Like I didn't understand who the guy was or what his MO was or really anybody. But for somebody who's into, quote, banned or dissident ideas, which I think everybody's into them or has a reaction to them, that was the initial appeal, like a lot of people. And the topic that initially was interesting to me is something I would title, Jewish identity politics. So I don't really say one way or the other on my show because I like to keep it not a secret, but kind of nebulous or kind of, I don't know, what's the right word, kind of like a mystery. But I myself am Jewish, was brought up Jewish. My dad's Catholic, but for all intensive purposes, I have a Jewish identity, although mixed. It's something that everyone has their own experience with it. It's an interesting identity to grow up in that's different from, mainstream Christianity or other identities, which maybe that's why Luke switched teams. But so to hear that talked about frankly on a show, in addition to all the other topics, was what drew me. And I had actually read The Wandering Who by, I forget the guy's name, but that kind of crazy Israeli who's a saxophonist. Which, I don't know. I disagreed with a lot of it, but I thought it was an interesting exercise because being a part of the Jewish community, criticism or kind of a deep critical examination isn't welcome. Like it is probably in many communities, but I feel like especially in the Jewish community, because there is so much I don't know, hatred or ignorance about Jews, and there's such a minoritarian group. There's enough hatred coming from the outside, so anything resembling that from the inside certainly is shunned or not welcome overall. It's okay to ask questions, but as far as, probative questions or criticism, not very welcome. And that's kind of a natural human condition, right? It's pretty unpopular in the United States to say, is the United States a force for good? Are we the best country? Even asking questions like that, can rub people the wrong way. Is the United States really better than a country like China or Russia or Iran? I think those are valuable questions, but, you'll generate hatred. And the U.S. is the most powerful country that's ever existed. So to do that in a community that has suffered in a lot of ways historically, like the Jewish community, there's not many places for that. So it was especially that drew me to the show, but also his examination of not only that, but dissident ideas that don't have many welcome places, like racial differences, or what's the buzzword? Human diversity, whatever that word is. I'm always forgetting words of vocabulary. Human biodiversity or something like this, which is a controversial subject that's kind of related to eugenics and other such subjects that were largely shunned and considered taboo, not only before the horrors of World War II, but really in the United States, I want to say like back in the 20s and 30s, when some of these topics were considered, and there was a backlash against them because it resulted in, I don't know, people considered slow or lazy, or I can't remember the exact word they used for these people, but, shiftless. They were considered to have genetic defects, and it seems like there was a backlash to these ideas where people said, you know what, maybe that woman who was considered dumb and her children were living in horrible conditions, maybe it's not her genes, it's just, you know what, she grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, they fell in some hard times, and that's the way she ended up. So I'm digressing here, but I think it's valuable to say. And yeah, he had Jews on his show. He had anyone on his show that he considered to be of value, that wanted to talk about ideas and points of view, as long as they weren't overly toxic. And that's saying a lot, because he used to have that Norvin guy on, right? Who was, hard to get more edgy than him. Norvin Hobbs. Great show, lasted for a while. He kind of changed course. I guess my thought, I like Luke a lot. He's kind of an enigma, which anyone who's really interesting and has done something, a lot of times they're an enigma. You can't really figure out what makes the guy tick. Like, honestly, Donald J. Trump, I don't know what makes the guy tick. Like, I don't know his inner motivations. You know what I mean? Sometimes I jokingly question, like, is the guy human? I don't know. He's like a machine in and of himself. For good and for bad in multiple different ways. I guess, jokingly, I think the same thing about Luke. Like, how does he live stream for 3 to 5 hours a day? Is he happy? I hope so. I want everyone to be happy. Hey, if live streaming brings him true joy and happiness, I hope that's the case. But I also hope he is happy beyond that, because I know doing that for that long, I couldn't do it, but people are different. So going back to how it affected me personally, someone who's the Jewish faith, who has their own experience being Jewish, but someone who's also questioned. I look at Jewishness as being a part of who I am. It's a part of, just as I'm also Irish, I'm also German. Actually, we have Christian or non-Jewish Germans who actually fought on the Axis side during World War II, even potentially as members of the SS. You know what I mean? So I'm also German. My mom's Jewish, and my grandmother was Ukrainian on the Jewish side, and my grandpa was Polish. So, I have a unique identity, like everyone kind of has their own unique identity. But was always proud of my Jewish background, didn't believe in the faith. So I had questions around, like, what does it mean? Do I actually believe in it? Growing up in a mixed America, I think many Jews have this experience where they say, my people, or my non-Jewish friends, neighbors, classmates, are they, my kin? Are they my folk or whatever? Or am I really Jewish? And does it make sense to live in an all-Jewish community, whether that's, like Bentonhurst or Israel? So I remember going back to school when it's a healthy thing to, get in touch with your community. And that involved going to Jewish group events. And it's this very unique experience being Jewish, where people ask you like, oh, are you a Jewish? I'm kind of trying to do an Israeli accent there, because some of the people are Israelis that organize it. Are you Jewish? With like wide-eyed anticipation. Oh, you are? You're one of us. So then you're automatically like in this in-group, which is a beautiful thing, but also, I don't know if I want to say makes you feel a little uncomfortable, because it's like, I don't know. I primarily identify people by if I like them, if I feel like they're a good person, if they're genuine, if they have my back. I'm friends with many different people of different races and different faiths. So that's why I would kind of question that. But this was a theme on Luke's show, right? Like, can you build a kinship with someone of a different race? It was mostly race, I guess, not so much religion, but a different ethnic group of a different race. So I thought this was a very interesting theme on his show that kind of pointed a spotlight right at me, that spoke to me. And coming into his show, I've grown up in America, have not much interaction with Jews or Jewish identity politics, although I consider myself proud of my background. But largely, my interactions are with non-Jews, like many Jews in America. But his show made me question, like it made maybe white Americans question, should your kins be your fellow kinsmen, your fellow racial kinsmen, which is considered taboo in today's society, right? We've supposedly moved past that, but maybe we shouldn't have moved past that. So it kind of made me question things in my own life. I was dating somebody of a different background, of a different race at that time. So although I was dating her, not because she was the same race, because we were compatible and she was a great person in other respects, it made me question, am I doing the right thing here? Am I doing the wrong thing by watching this show and considering different ideas? So kind of a mixed bag, but definitely highly interesting. Trying to figure out how to, best go about this video without making a 2-hour rant, which I suppose would be possible, but needs to be avoided. He made me consider a lot of ideas which I never encountered during college or my educational experience. So I would say he probably had a bigger impact than even most, or if not all, of my professors, which is saying something, because these are professional educators. That's what they do for a living. Is to maybe this day and age, people would say college professors suck, but I think it's kind of saying something because I had some college professors did have quite an impact on me. So I could go in a million directions about him and his show, but I just wanted to. The theme is how he changed my life. He made me question my beliefs and assumptions and ideas. Um, but I think seeing it wasn't so much him; it was his guests and their viewpoints, and his chat made me see there was some veracity in these ideas that should have been considered and talked about and questioned. Things such as racial IQ, immigration to the United States, demographic change, etc., along with a host of other ideas. And I'm someone who was always kind of conservative, listen to Rush Limbaugh, pretty conservative compared to the average person. And I considered myself, someone who is self-aware, asks probative questions of myself to a pretty good degree, not a hack, if you will. But watching his show made me see, I'm aware of the toxic nature of, say, leftists on CNN, on a program like CNN or MSNBC, that are dishonest and mostly push their narrative, but I hadn't really seen it on the right. But coming into his show, looking at ideas like racial IQ, the difference in violence, crime rates amongst the races, I could see the same dynamics among the hard right-wingers, where instead of trying to be rigorously objective, they fall into narratives and confirmation bias. You could see this with the election fraud, the stop the steal. It's just like, I didn't want Biden to win, but I didn't see any veracity to this stop the steal narrative. I could see how people fall into these beliefs and they find sources that tell them the election was stolen. And because they want to believe it, they believe it, and they select sources that tell them what they want to believe. So largely, I would sum up the belief system of those held by people on his show as adopting a comforting narrative that explains their reality, and how they can make the country and the world a better place by following these narratives. Whereas I have largely rejected, I'm not saying there's a 100% true that there's not racial differences in IQ, but I look more at the nuances as to why, if this phenomenon is significant, why it exists, what it means. But I also melded it with my own experience of moving across the country, having originally been from a town that was 95% white and 5% mostly model minority, with a couple, Carlton Banks type black folks. That was my experience, my interracial experience, if you will. And having now moved across the country, gotten out of my comfort zone, and made friends with people of many different races and backgrounds that I consider to be good people, this question of racial IQ differences, it's something that in my life doesn't seem to have a lot of importance. And that's before you even get to, if it's true, how true is it? How important is it? Are people adopting this viewpoint as a way to further their objectives, or because it speaks to their fear of other people. How can I say this better? Come on, man. I, I mean, I think people adopt some of these ideas because, well, for example, the original eugenics movement, it was a scientific based movement that analyzed why are there winners, why are there people on top that, live on plantations, are smart, are sophisticated, and why are there the downtrodden people that live on the other side of the railroad tracks, whether they're black, white, Chinese, whatever. So it was a scientific based exercise. And I'm just talking about the United States here, or maybe Britain. What conclusion did they come to? Surprise, they came to a conclusion that reinforced society and the elite view of that society, which is people are winners because they're genetically predisposed to being winners. Why are we on top? Because we're better, because we're smarter, we're better stocked, we have higher IQ. And this is the way things should be. It was very similar to views that reinforce slavery. Why are there slaves and slave masters and plantation owners? It's the natural way. It's the way God designed the world. It's just the way things are. It might be hard to accept, but this is the best system, and it justifies itself. That's what eugenics did. So while maybe it was meant to be scientifically rigorous and objective, surprise, it reinforced and justified the ruling class's society and rule. So I think that was its Achilles heel. And it went a little bit too far in its justifying everything by race and genetics, to the point where it was condemning poor women who were maybe a little slow or down on their luck to being having birth control. What's the word? Being sterilized. And including men, I don't know if they sterilized men, maybe they did, but it was the same justification for why they were, in an alley, barely living a life. It's that guy has bad genes, he's of bad stock. Not, well, he's of okay stock, but he grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, he fell into some misfortune. And, if he was provided with some resources and a little bit of help, he could be a productive member of society. So that's a long-winded way of saying these narratives help justify people's worldviews and kind of motivations amongst his audience. Whereas me, just seeing how unnuanced these views are, repelled me from these ideas and actually reinforced a more nuanced view of the world. It actually, which, I don't know, it feels like a bad thing for me to say, it actually pushed me more toward the left, maybe being more of a progressive. Not that I'm a progressive, but I understand the arguments that people are making more, and I feel like I can better evaluate arguments in a more nuanced, common sense way. I think a problem with our discourse is it's dominated by loud people, loud, obnoxious people that generate buzz and headlines. And what's missing are everyday people that live and interact with people of different races, faiths, etc., that solve problems on a daily basis. What really runs America isn't pundits or even the president or elites, although they have much more power per capita. It's really average folks that interact on a daily basis, get along, solve problems, figure out how to coexist largely peacefully. And a lot of, Luke Ford's chat is consuming extremist material saying, we have to have extreme solutions to what I see are as exaggerated problems. So his chat is, say, looking at the news and consuming content that's saying, non-whites are out there killing whites every day, genociding whites, etc., whatever, white genocide. Whereas I don't feel like that's an accurate representation of what's going on in society. So I'm trying to think where I am right now. If I'm made a succinct video as much as I possibly can without ranting too much. I think Luke Ford's show made an impact on a lot of people. I'm thankful he had the platform to make that happen, and I was able to be a small part of it. I've explained how it impacted me personally, and how I feel like a better person with a better view in the world. I hope other people had the same experience, didn't get sucked into extremist politics that are gonna ruin their life. And maybe I'm in the minority because he has a lot of intense, maybe extremist like people on his show. But I believe the way forward in this country is to heighten the voice of the average people that are just, trying to solve problems and go about their lives, and drown out the Nick Fuenteses and the Mike Enochs and the Eric Strikers, and also the obnoxious leftists too, like Joy Reid, or I don't know, Black Lives Matter. These are people that have an agenda to create outrage and attention and buzz and make the country worse, I think. So I feel like it comes full circle explaining Luke and his show. He's the man. Wish him the best, as well as anyone listening to this and the people on his show in the chat and everything. Glad I made this video. I know it's long, but you never know who out there might find value in it. Everyone have a good day.